Usually, I love watching the Met Gala. A few years ago, I asked my husband Charlie if we could put it on. And not really understanding what it was, he said, sure. A full hour and a half into the red carpet coverage, he looked at me and said very innocently, "Wait, so when is it actually going to start?" Oh, I said, well, this is it. Like, this is the event. It's just these celebrities and nauseatingly expensive, outrageous designer athletes having vapid conversations about fashion with e-news reporters. Charlie has never quite forgiven me for that. And yet, this year, on the first Monday in May, I turned to him very sweetly and said, "Hey, is it okay if we watch the Met Gala tonight?" And being the mensch that he is, he said yes. I had been looking forward to this year's theme, super fine, tailoring Black style, largely because it was based off a book by a professor at Barnard, my alma mater, called Slaves to Fashion, Black Dandyism and the Styling of Black Diasporic Identity. But by about 15 minutes in, I was irritated and nauseous, and I had to turn it off. It all just felt so performative and self-indulgent. And while I love the idea of celebrating Black fashion, the interviews came across like an excuse to be self-righteously political and make a real statement against Black erasure in American society. But it all just seemed so half-hearted and superficial. And as Karen Attiah of the Washington Post noted, the structures of the fashion industry continue to sideline and silence Black voices. She writes, "Even while celebrating, as well as profiting off, Black culture, high fashion still remains almost exclusively a white power structure. After all, the face of this year's gala, model Christian Latchman, said he still works a 9-to-5 job at GNC. On Instagram, a viral video spread of him sweeping floors at his job, despite his newfound visibility and image being used to help sell out fashion's biggest fundraiser." I am so tired of performative activism. It's hollow and vapid, and more often than not, it actually assists in upholding the injustices that it claims to be fighting against. Performative activism is not about creating change. It's about creating followers. It's about being seen. It's about the ways that posting a trendy political statement on Instagram might further one's careers or increase one's social cachet. Like Hannah Einbinder, a Jewish comedian and actress best known for her role on the HBO show Hacks, who recently posted a picture of herself in a "Fund Abortion, Not War" t-shirt on Instagram earlier this week, in solidarity with abortion funds who had lost donors because of their advocacy for Palestine, as she describes it. Just to be clear, we are talking about organizations like ARC Southeast, who co-published the post with her, who have espoused language that dehumanizes Jews and have fundamentally failed to acknowledge any of the reproductive rights injustices that have been perpetrated against Israeli women. Hillel Silverman, a liberal Zionist activist, responded to Hannah's Instagram post in a Times of Israel blog. This was very bold of her, she began by saying that she had had a safe legal abortion in Israel just 2 months prior to writing that blog post. She wrote that this kind of language actually undermines the very cause that Einbinder claims to support, making abortion clinics unsafe and alienating some of the very individuals she is claiming to advocate on behalf of. Silverman writes, "When I see slogans like 'Fund Abortion, Not War,' or activists in red triangle t-shirts claiming solidarity with oppressed women by pushing a false narrative that erases the real conditions on the ground, it's not just annoying, it's dangerous." And I could list so many examples of this kind of performative, self-aggrandizing, and ultimately harmful activism, just from the past few weeks. And it's coming from all ends of the political spectrum, particularly when it comes to the war in Gaza. I have found Instagram personality Eitan the goalie to be a refreshing voice in this moment. He points out the hypocrisy and opportunism of so much of this activism. Recently, he shared, "The most extreme people on both sides saw a jump in engagement and their own bank accounts after October 7th and the subsequent war in Gaza. It is disgustingly profitable to make your entire personality hating Israelis or belittling legitimate concerns by Palestinians. 550-ish days into this, and that's the only thing they saw social media traction on, so they are doubling down. They're making content more extreme, even though they know this doesn't help the conversation. And in many ways, we're complicit, because we fool ourselves into thinking that social media is activism. We repost and share while deluding ourselves into thinking we are making a difference. Because activism and solidarity are not about so much about what we say, but about what we do, how we show up, how we act in the world. It's about our intentions and setting aside our own egos to ensure that we are actually helping those in need. Activism is about doing what will dismantle injustice, not just what makes us feel like we are dismantling injustice. This week, we read a double portion, Achrei Mot and Kedoshim. Achrei Mot literally means after the death, referring to the deaths of Aaron's sons Nadav and Avihu, who brought unauthorized fire into the tent of meeting and were struck down by God. Our commentators ask the question that crosses all of our minds naturally. What possibly could have been so terrible about what Nadav and Avihu did that it warranted death as a punishment? One possibility is that Nadav and Avihu's illicit offering came from a place of hubris and self-importance. They wanted to offer an extra sacrifice, one not ordained by God, and believed they could do so without proper training or experience. Their offering was not about their love for God, but their love for themselves and their desire for applause and acclaim. In so many ways, this feels like the performative activism we see today. Folks with big megaphones and even bigger egos spouting ideas about incredibly complicated topics without a sophisticated education in the matter. Perpetuating pithy, oversimplified takes that are not only inaccurate, but harmful, all so they can feel special. So, what then is the alternative? How can we make a difference in the world in a productive way? One answer, I believe, can be found in the second portion we read this week, Kedoshim. Kedoshim tehiyu ki kadosh ani Adonai Elohechem. You shall be holy, for I, Adonai, your God, am holy. We are instructed to be holy like God, not through what we say or how important others think we are. We are holy through our actions, through caring for others, through the ways in which we support our community. The text lists a myriad of ways, both ritual and ethical, that we must take to obtain that level of sacredness. We must pay our employees promptly. We must keep Shabbat. We must honor our mother and father. We must treat one another fairly. But the one that really resonated and that so represents the antithesis to this kind of superficial activism we see today is the commandment to observe Pe'ah. Pe'ah is the practice of not harvesting the corners of our fields so that the poor and the stranger might come and eat of it. This commandment implores us to care for those in need. But what's more important is how we do it. It's quiet, with dignity, and in a way that we will never know who we helped, and the people we help will never know who helped them. It's not about recognition or acclaim. It's about doing the right thing. It's about providing what our neighbors, our fellow human beings, need. Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Love your neighbor as yourself, we read in this part of the Torah. Whatever cause, whatever issue is in your heart, whatever you choose to address, however you choose to fight, whatever actions we might take and whatever words we may proclaim, may pe'ah be the guiding principle for our activism, and ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. We must constantly ask ourselves, why are we doing or saying something? Will those words make a difference? Who might it harm and how? Are we doing this because we genuinely think it will help, or because it will get a lot of likes and give us that dopamine hit we so desperately crave? Through this action, who are we expressing love for more? Our neighbor or ourselves? So let's dig deep. Let's get uncomfortable. Because doing the work of fighting for justice and peace and equality is not comfortable, and it is not easy. What happens when we lower our finger pointed at the other and instead take a good, honest look in the mirror? A Facebook post won't change the world, but changing ourselves just might. Shabbat shalom.